All right, on this episode of Bowks Talking Bouts, excited to be talking to an individual set for a very intriguing fight at BKFC 47, and that goes down on July the 14th. We've got Ryan Reber and Travis Thompson getting out there to test skills, and great getting to have Travis on the show today. How's your day going there, man?
It's going well, man. Going well. Same thing I do every day. Training. That's all I do, my man. Getting ready for this fight.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting one. I saw you had a post like a few weeks ago at this point where you were saying you were done playing the effing games as far as the money and the standings were concerned, and there was a couple other excerpts from that where you were talking about how things were getting real and you were getting very irritated. Like, what was going on there? Has everything been sorted with that, or is this like a mindset thing heading into the fight, or what was going on with that, I guess?
Well, a lot of it is just to say things to get it out there so the fight happens. It did. So, I mean, we got everything situated. Everything is good to go. It's also to put myself in the psychological battle to be ready for this fight. So I do a lot of different things. Like I actually left Pennsylvania. That's where I'm from. I came to St. Petersburg, Florida. I trained with Keith Thurman, my boy Keon. He trains me. But, today I was working out with Keith all day. I'm going to take probably another 2 hours off and then go back and train again. I do 2-a-days every single day, train minimum 6 times a week, 2 times a day every day. I enjoy it. Sometimes I take a Sunday off, and that's about it.
So this dynamic with Keith Thurman is a relatively newer thing. So I saw you were getting in a little bit of golf with one time, but I guess I didn't know the extent of you guys training. Like, how long has that been going on for? It sounds like the last few months from what you've been describing, but is that the timeline?
I'm sorry, say that again, buddy?
It seems like a relatively newer thing with the Keith Thurman training. Has that been going on for like a few months now, or when did that all get going?
Well, actually, the Keith Thurman thing has gone on since, let's see, I want to say the first one was David Morgan. So what was that, Knucklemania 1? So I've been training with Keith Thurman and Keon since Knucklemania 1. It's just this time of year is really hard for me because I have a landscape company back home, and it's hard for me to leave work, but I gave myself that opportunity for this fight. So now that I'm in camp, I'm here. I've been here for about 3 weeks, so this will be my 4th week coming up that I'm here just training strictly with Keith and Keon.
And that's interesting because, I mean, as you've been saying, like, I've known you to be a guy that, gets in the work for your fights, but also concurrently has other jobs. Like, how much of a difference maker has it been just, like, solely focusing on the fighting this time out?
Yeah, it's difficult. It's really hard to do because I also have a wife and 2 kids. So it's really hard to leave all that. I mean, yesterday was 4th of July. That's my son's favorite holiday, so that really hurt me to miss that holiday with him. And then his birthday is July 12th. I'm going to miss his 14th birthday. Those are things that weigh on me heavily, and it actually really annoys me because, I'm missing all this stuff because I want to go fight. That's the way it's, it hurts me to do that, but what I tend to do is blame my opponent for this. So because of my opponent, that's why I'm missing out on my son's birthday. So therefore, it makes me put extra effort into my training and all my work ethic to ensure the victory come the 14th. So that's all I'm focused on right now.
I was going to say, has this similar dynamic happened in past fights where I guess the frustration and feelings not being with your family has kind of played against your opponent, or is this like one of the more, I guess, extreme instances of that, just the proximity to your son's birthday and a host of other things you're missing out on? Like, is this going to be the biggest kind of like pent up sense of catharsis going into a fight with all that?
Yeah, I always try to put that type of mindset into every single fight, but yes, this one's going to be the hardest because of my son's birthday. I'm missing my son's 14th birthday. I missed 4th of July, so that's really going to annoy me. Don't get me wrong, I do all the FaceTime stuff and everything, which is really nice. Today's day and age, you can actually still do that stuff, but, I'm not really there, which is a big deal for me. So yeah, this is definitely a little bit pent up aggression towards my opponent, and it's going to show on the 14th. He's my boy. Reber's my man. You know, I love Reber. He's my boy before the fight. He's going to be my boy after the fight. But when I get in the ring, you're going to see why they call me the animal. That's just what I always bring to the table.
Yeah, and a lot going into this fight for sure, and I definitely have more questions about that. But you talk about the good rapport with yourself and Ryan Reber. It seems very much the opposite with yourself and David Diaz when you guys fought at BKFC 32, and I saw that the Mission Accomplished guys gave you a Fight of the Year award for that one. Seems like a comprehensive, unanimous decision win there. What were your main takeaways from that fight there, just beating another ranked bantamweight in BKFC?
So the thing that really bothered me is that everyone was like, oh my God, Thompson couldn't put him out. There's no need for me to put him out. I was in control of the fight from bell to bell, from the beginning to the end. There's no need for me to ever really put myself in a bad position to try to go for the knockout. You know what I mean? Like, because sometimes when you go for a knockout, you're really looking for it. And when you do that, you can open yourself up for stuff. I was in control the entire time, and I just had fun with it. If you saw me, that's the first time in my career that you've ever seen me, put my hands down playing around with my opponent. I don't do that. I usually kill. That's all I was going to do, but he left it open for me. I could do anything I wanted to do.
Yeah, that felt like such a great showcase performance. I mean, you've been in there with a lot of former champions and title contenders and the like, but that seemed to be one of the more comprehensive performances you had. And I mean, it seems like the division is pretty wide open right now as far as title contenders, and with you kind of prioritizing more full-time training in combat sports. Like, do you almost foresee a situation where a strong statement win here could get you that championship opportunity next at 135?
I don't really necessarily think, I don't think I need this to give myself that contention. I already have that, in my opinion. All this is going to do is show that there is a gap between, whatever. What am I, the second ranked and he's the fourth or fifth ranked? There's going to show the gap. That's all I'm going to do. I'm going to exploit that gap. I'm going to show that I deserve to be fighting for the belt next. That's the whole purpose of this fight. And to be honest with you, my whole thing with it was BoxRec, they just now changed it, but before he was the number one ranked fighter on BoxRec, and that made no sense, but whatever. Now they changed it. They fixed that mistake.
And I mean, it seems like you're getting in great work. Obviously we touched on the Keith Thurman work, but I was seeing that you were, really sharpening the tools with flyweight world title challenger J.R. Ridge. Can you talk about some of that work and how that's been going?
Well, I mean, I'm working with a world champion fighter, world champion boxer, Keith Thurman. So he always helps me out with little things. He critiques everything that I do, which I love. And the great thing with Keith, it's we push each other. I'm not the type of guy that's oh my God, I'm training with Keith Thurman. No, let me get some pictures. Let me, oh cool, I'm with Keith Thurman. We're doing this. We're doing that. I don't do that stuff. When I'm in the gym, I'm just like him. We're there just to work. And I think he appreciates that because, all we do is push each other. Who's going to do better? Who's going to do better than who today? That's what we always do when we train. And it's great for both of us, to be honest with you, because one pushes the other. When I'm down, he's up on cloud nine. He's motivating me, and same in return. When he's down, I try to push him. So you got champions training each other, essentially what's happening.
Yeah, it seems like the sparring work with J.R. Ridge has been going great, too.
Well, I actually haven't sparred with J.R. Ridge this fight because, you got to realize we're all pretty friendly with each other. J.R.'s friendly with Ryan also. I don't like doing that. And not only that, but J.R. is in Ryan's height. You know what I mean? When I spar with people that are just like my opponent for the purpose of everything, the timing, the distance, everything has to be on point. I'm really methodical, and I really take that stuff seriously. That's why my last fight, when was in camp for David Diaz, I was probably JR the entire time. Obviously, because JR and David are the same height. So, I mean, and that really paid dividends for me come fight time. Like, I was jabbing JR pretty well. I did a great job against him. And then when I got in the fight with
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I mean, just an interesting time with, how everything's developed in the division and stuff like that. But in talking specifically about this next opponent, like, I'm curious what your thoughts on his broader BKFC run have been, just with the 3-0 record at this point, a pair of stoppages. His last fight kind of ended a little bit inauspiciously with the headbutt and the post-fight melee and stuff like that. But what are your thoughts on his BKFC run overall, just 3-0 so far, and having kind of encroached into that top 5 picture a little bit?
I mean, good for him. He's 3-0, and right. So, you think you're a good big dick, you're like the top. I get it, I understand, but you got to also realize that the 3 people you know much. Like, you don't have a notable victory. You don't have anything. Like I said, good for him. He's done great, and, I'm happy for him. But I've been in there with killers. Like, the top of our bracket. I've been with the best of the best. I've put on fight of the nights. I put on knockout of the nights. I bring that to the table. He hasn't fought a real fighter yet, and we're going to see what happens when he does.
So you think just like the quality of the resume you've had very much supersedes his? Because, yeah, like you said, and we were talking before, you've fought most of the champions and top contenders.
Absolutely. And the one thing, like, everyone asks about the I'm Christian, so I really don't care. That fight doesn't matter.
Sorry, which fight doesn't matter at this point?
Jack Grady. I hate that guy. Just the way it is. Yeah. He beat him once, I stopped him. He sucks.
And it was kind of interesting because I saw a post a bit ago where you were saying your girl, Angela White, hooked you up with the braids, and then, Reber shaped you up and everything like that. It seems like, I mean, based on before you guys were talking about how you have, like, a back and forth, like, respect with each other and stuff like that. It's, like, how would you describe the temperament heading into, this fight and everything like that? Like, pretty jovial and, sportsman-like, all things considered?
There's going to be nothing but sportsmanship on both ends, I feel. He's my boy. Like I said before, Ryan's a great dude. And honestly, when you look at Tom, we know each other now, it comes down to it, like, you find a friend who don't like ball. And that's pretty much it. So, when the fight got put up with me, or brought to my attention, I immediately called Ryan from what's going on to let him know, like, yo, is this something you want to do or not? I mean, yeah. So,
Yeah, for sure. And even in talking about how you think your resume is going to be a big difference maker here, I guess relative to the people that Ryan Reber has fought so far, like, what would you say some of the better stylistic attributes that he's shown would be? Like, what skills in the ring have you noticed from him? And I feel like this could lead you to an interesting opportunity. Like we were talking before about how you already feel like you're, deserving of that title shot, and you're very much right up there. But there would be quite a, story behind you fighting Reggie Barnett Jr., the reigning champion, just considering the fight you guys had rather at BKFC 1. And it was great when you talked to me about that 5-year anniversary retrospective and helped with that project there. But can you speak to, how important that, quote unquote story would be, just like a title fight with Reggie Barnett and you guys kind of being tied to that first event and all?
That would be great to have that title fight with Reggie. Because like I said, or like you had just said, June would have been the 5-year anniversary, and you're going to see where we both have, grown since June 2nd of 2018. So that would be an ideal fight for everybody. Everyone could see how the sport itself has evolved and how we individually have evolved. I would love that fight. It'd be a great fight to put on for everybody. It'd be great for the company. It'd be great for spectators, everybody. It's a win-win for all. But at the same time, I don't want to overlook Reber, and I'm not going to. So I will not, that's one thing I never do. I never look forward to another fight. I just look at who I'm fighting, who's in front of me. That's all I'm worried about. So to be honest with you, I really don't care about that fight right now. One fight at a time. So all I'm focused on is Ryan Reber, getting inside, doing my work.
Yeah, for sure. And all respect to Ryan Reber in asking that question, but thought I'd put that out there. And I guess one of the last questions I had, because, it's been documented that your nickname is The Animal, and I definitely, think it suits you, like the stylistic approach you bring. But what was like the backstory on who gave you the name and everything like that? Like, what was the origin?
That's actually pretty cool. I appreciate you asking that. So I actually got the nickname The Animal. I probably got that when I was like 13 or 14 years old from wrestling. So when I wrestled in high school, I had no clue what I was doing. I started wrestling when I was in 9th grade. I got the nickname when I was in 10th grade. It's because I was always the littlest guy out there. I would wrestle anybody. It didn't matter. I would wrestle with the heavyweights. I didn't care. And the thing was, I was always a bulldog. It didn't matter. It didn't matter who you put in front of me, what you put in front of me. I would do anything. I don't care. If a heavyweight could do it, so could I. So, I've always had that mentality. And if you ever see me in person, it's the way I am, man. You can never look past me. Always expect the unexpected when it comes to me. I try to push the boundaries on everything.
Yeah, that very much comes across in your approach, for sure, man. But you've been very good with your time, and definitely want to be mindful of that. But curious if there's maybe any final parting thought you'd want to add as we're kind of wrapping up here, Travis.
Well, the one thing I do want to do, I want to thank every single one of my sponsors for helping me bring this camp so I could have a camp. If it weren't for my sponsors, I wouldn't be here in Florida training, being able to give myself the time to put on a great show. So I want to appreciate them. I want to say thank you to my wife and my kids, because they're behind me 100%, and they're the ones going through this with me as well. I want to thank all my friends and family. I want to thank everybody that's going to be tuning in, everyone that's been a part of the journey. I enjoy it, and I thank all of you for everything.
Yeah, some great shout-outs for sure, and this is going to be a great fight at BKFC 47. Very much looking forward to seeing what unfolds there on July 14th, and appreciate you coming on the show and giving great insights yet again, man. So thanks for the time, and just, you have a good rest of your day, and looking forward to checking out the fight when it goes down.
My man, thanks for reaching out to me. Thanks for getting me on the show. I appreciate it.
All right, on this episode of Bowks Talking Bouts, excited to be talking to an individual set to compete at BKFC 47, which goes down on July the 14th, and a very intriguing matchup for the bantamweight hierarchy as Travis Thompson and Ryan Reber get out there into the ring, and great having Ryan on the show for the first time. How's everything going there, man?
Man, it's going great, man. Camp's been going good. It's hot enough down here in Florida to melt the skin off your bones, but other than that, man, it's going good.
I was gonna say, is there any benefit to that? Like, I mean, are you getting any kind of like outdoor?
Shit, man, if you could train in this heat, you could probably do anything, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and glad things could get sorted out for this one, because I was seeing that a little bit ago, like around like a week or so ago, you were saying you ran into like a little bit of a contract dispute, but it seemed like you got in some good rounds of sparring and seemed like everything kind of got back on track there. So glad that panned out for you there.
Yeah, I mean, it really wasn't on my end. I think it was more on his end. You know, I think he may have been promised, you know, something that they didn't want to pull through. So I understood, man. So I think he held out for a little bit and, you know, wanted to try to get more money out of it. Obviously, I didn't get any money out of it. I was all right with what they were, you know, I mean, obviously I wanted more, but at the end of the day, man, it really didn't matter to me, man, because, you know, I got my eyes on a bigger prize, and that's that belt. So, you know, you know, that's what I'm after, man. So whatever's gonna get me there, and that's who they said that I have to go up against, and that's what it is, man.
And it would seem that fighting the number 2 guy in the division would very much serve that master. Is that how you're looking at this one? Is this like a title eliminator in your estimation?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what they're telling me. That's what my manager is telling me. So that's what we're riding it as. I mean, you know, a win here would be huge, and it would, you know, catapult me in that number 2 spot. So me in the number, I wanna think that Jared Grant is gonna have him a fight in August. I'm not sure against who, but I'm sure I would be the winner out of those two, you know, as everything goes my way come the 14th.
Yeah, I get what you mean. I just think with the timing of everything, just with Jared Grant looking to, you know, get back into the win column, like obviously being a former interim champion at 135 serves him well, like long term, but I feel like just the timing of everything, it's like I feel like the winner of yourself versus Travis Thompson could really catapult into that title shot. Is that, I mean, based on what you're saying, it seems like how you're kind of looking at it, but it seems like a fun time in the contender picture for bantamweight.
Oh yeah, and I mean, and it also, you know, and it's also going to depend on what Reggie's going to do. Is Reggie going to stay or is Reggie going to drop? You know what I mean? So if that's, because I mean, that would be a great fight for me too if Reggie stays. You know, I would look forward to something like that. So either way, man, I mean, you know, not to say that I'm looking past Travis Thompson. I got, you know, I'm going to have my hands full, but I know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? And I know how hard I'm training. I know, you know, what it takes to, you know, do this. And, you know, I'm putting all the things in order to be successful in this fight. So.
Yeah, and I mean, great that you got this opportunity, and obviously through like no fault of your own, but just with the last one kind of ending in a certain sense, kind of an inauspicious kind of ending, just with the intentional headbutt from Jack Grady.
I wanted to finish him, and I truly believe that was what was going to happen, and he took the easy way out. And I mean, he can sit here and say whatever the fuck he wants to say, but I mean, him and I know what was going on in that ring. You know what I mean? And the dude had a decent game plan. You know, a lot of people don't know, and I hate to make excuses, man. You know, I didn't have the best legs underneath me. I didn't get the best, you know, night's sleep, but whatever, man. I mean, it is what it is. That's all part of the game. What are you going to do? You know, I can't just go out there and not perform. So I went out there, and, you know, I'm not used to – it's harder to fight a guy like Shady than it is to fight a guy like Travis, because Travis is more of a fucking professional. It's going to be more of a chess match than Shady, you know, getting hit and just trying to bum rush me. You know what I mean? Like, I never had to deal with that in the ring. So it was like, once he, you know, bum rushed me, put me to the ropes and started to try to tee off, one or two shots I kind of fell, and then I was like, oh, he's going to gas. I could feel his energy just pouring out of him. And by the time we separated and I cut him, the look in his eyes was total, you know, I'm desperate. And he rushed me again and tried to headbutt me again, and that was it. And they warned him, like, you keep doing this, because, I mean, during the whole fight, you know, his main goal was to cut me, because he said it. I seen him a couple hours before the fight, and we kind of had a little a little altercation, and he just kept saying, I'm going to cut you. I'm going to cut you. I said, bro, you're taking a canvas snap. You're not cutting shit. And he, you know, he just proceeded on with, I'm going to cut you. I mean, he prides in that. Dude is, he, you know, in my opinion, is not all there. But, you know, at the end of the day, us fighters that fight bare knuckle, are we really all that there? You know, so, I mean, I get it. But at the end of the day, man, you got to act like a professional at some point in your career. And I've heard, you know, from multiple sources that he's not allowed in any gym because of the way he acts, and he's not, you know, he said it himself, oh, I don't spar because I'm too old, and I train at the YMCA, and, you know, that kind of gave me the confidence right there to be like, you know, he's not coming in here with pure skills, and he's a big 135er, and to be honest with you, man, I pretty much got all the big guys out of the way. Shady being 5'9", 5'10", Rick Caruso was 6 foot at 135 pounds, and, you know, even though Rick didn't have a win, those are the guys, you know, they ain't got nothing to lose. And plus, he was big, and, you know, Rick was coming off of a fight of the night, and, I mean, he beat the brakes off of the little wrestler guy. What was his name? That Rick Caruso fought. I forget, but he was a WWE wrestler, man, and Rick took that fight on, I think, maybe less than a week's notice. So, of course, he wasn't in shape for it, but, I mean, he went out there and got a fight of the night. So, you know, and knowing that, you know, that puts a little more pressure on me. Like, damn, all right, he's 6 foot. He busted the shit out of the little wrestler guy, and I was like, yeah. I mean, this guy, and they gave him a full training camp against me, man. So, you know, I came out there and I broke his orbital. And, you know, I just know I got the power. I know I got the speed. I know I got the precision. So, you know, that's what I look to do with Travis. I'm going to outbox him. And I'm going to use my reach, and I'm going to, you know, Travis is a tough dude. So I just look to lacerate him up to where they're either going to stop it, or if I could touch that chin, knock him out.
Yeah, and I mean, not to dwell too much on the last fight per se, but I'm curious if it almost inadvertently served a certain master just in terms of getting attention on what you were doing. Because it seemed like the chaos that kind of erupted from all of that, like the post-fight melee, kind of got a lot of traction on a lot of the different sites and stuff like that. And, like, you know, David Feldman kind of taking Grady down. I think it was like BKFC's like wildest moment of 2022. So
pretty damn wild. You know, and it sucks, man, because, you know, there's people out there like, oh, well, Shady was working Reber before he got. Listen, man, he was far from working me, far from doing it. I played into his game, and I was going to let him gas himself out, and I was going to knock him out because I already felt it. I seen it. And once I cut him, he's seen it too, and that's why he had butted me to get his way out of that fight. He can say whatever he wants to say, but then why did you do what you did, bro? You know what I mean? Like, you didn't go out on your fucking shield. You tried to cheat. And, I mean, he's going to be lucky as all hell if he's able to come back. So, you know, it is what it is, man. I mean, would a rematch between me and him happen? Probably not, because unless he built his way back up and just went on a tear, you know what I mean? And I would love to rematch him if that would be one of the things. But I honestly, I don't look behind me, man. I'm only looking forward. So, you know, he's out of the picture. You know, so I look for them top guys. And, I mean, as far as Travis Thompson goes, I personally feel all the pressure's on him. He's the guy with more experience. He's the guy who's number 2. I'm coming for his spot, you know, and likewise, he's not going to want me to take his spot, so he's going to try to stop me from doing that. But, you know, I know who he trains with down here. He trains in close to my camp in St. Petersburg, Florida, and we actually did train together last camp a little bit. So I know a little bit of what he's about, and he knows a little bit what I'm about. You know, we didn't really get any sparring in because I believe, you know, he thought that we could possibly be opponents down the road. And, you know, at first it was like, oh, we're boys, we're never going to fight. As soon as he left, hey, man, I could get us a fight. And I'm just like, bro, at the end of the day, friends or not, I'm not in this shit for friends. I'm in this shit for myself. So if we got to fight, it is what it is, bro. You know what I mean? Set that shit up, and we'll see what happens. And, you know, obviously there was talks, and that's what popped up, man. And, you know, come the 14th, I look to put on a show and handle business, man. I mean, I've reached out. I got a nutritionist. His name's Nick Ruiz. He's actually Dave Mundell's nutritionist / personal trainer, so I linked up with him a couple times a week just to do something different, just to have, something different. And, obviously my camp, and I also get to train with those guys that shift that, are a powerhouse gym as well down here in Florida. So, we got a lot of great things in this area, hence why Travis would travel from Philly to come down here to train with us, but this time around, he's in a decent gym, obviously, yeah, Keith Thurman, but he seems to forget, like, I know all those guys. I've been there. I used to train with them, and there's a reason why I don't train with them no more, and that's because of the work ethic that they're putting out. It's not what I'm getting right now through my gym, so, we'll see, and at the end of the day, I believe fuck experience. I've been in this for 20 years myself. I believe, honestly, that whoever put in the more work will reap the reward, and whoever didn't, it will show underneath those lights. So, I don't need to talk. I don't need to talk smack. I don't need to bad mouth them. I'm showing up on the 14th, and that's what it is.
So you're not necessarily putting as much stock into the fact that he fought at like BKFC 1 and he's still like one of the top ranked bantamweights. Like you're not really letting that weigh on your mind too much.
No, I mean, I'm really not, man. I mean, yeah, he's got the experience, but also styles make fights, and he's never fought anybody as big as I have. I mean, you go back and you look at his wins, who those guys were, not very impressive. The guys that he lost to were very impressive, so I'll give him that. But at the end of the day, he's fighting smaller guys. He's got a big opponent on his hands, and, they try to downplay me like, oh, well, he's small. I'm not small. I've put on 10 pounds of muscle this time around, too, to make sure that I'm not small. So, I used to walk around at probably like 43, 42. Now I was walking around almost towards 150. So, I made sure that come the 14th, I'm not that, same skinny ass little Ryan that you guys seen in the previous fights. I wanted to, put on a little bit more muscle. I wanted to work on my footwork. And there was a couple other things, that I had to, work on and get down. And like I said, man, I'm putting in the work. So, the thing with Travis is I don't know what he was doing in Philly, but I know he comes down here to train, comes down here to train for fights. And in my opinion, you can't just be an on-call fighter. You're not just somebody who, I got to fight, now it's time to get into shape. Because I heard through the grapevine, he's very heavy, or was very heavy. I don't know what he's getting down to now, nor do I care. But I know that that's going to play a big factor, and it does. No matter your heart, no matter any of that shit, there's things that you must do, and there's universal laws that I feel you must abide by in order to be successful. And I don't really see that he's doing those things. He took a little too much time with the contract dispute instead of being like, well, I know I want to fight and I know that I want this to go down, so instead of sitting around and waiting for the contract to get handled, I should get my ass into training camp and put forth my best effort, and then when they renegotiate or whatever, at least, I'm ready. But, he got into training camp like 2.5 weeks ago. I've been doing this shit. It took me honestly, 8 weeks to get into top-notch shape, and just a couple weeks ago, I was really feeling it to where I could go 10 minutes, move my feet, move my head, and move my hands nonstop, and that's the goal. I mean, even today, I'm putting in just crazy amounts of work, and then on top of having a nutritionist to tell me exactly how to eat, why to eat this way, and I'm willing to come out of pocket, because in order to make money, you must, put up a little bit of money, in my opinion. So, that's I did things a little bit differently this camp, so therefore we're going to see a whole different Ryan Reber come the 14th.
Yeah, because I've known you to get in that work with, David Mundell and some of the other, Battle Zone boxing, compatriots and whatnot. But yeah, it really seems like you're adding some new tools to what you're doing, and just a whirlwind rise, like 3-0 in bare knuckle, and have barely been in the sport for a bit over a year now. So yeah.
I understand too, don't think that those other guys they had a combined record of 21 more professional fights than I had, and we had about the same in BKFC. And yes, they were losing records, but at the end of the day, like even Shady fought, you know, was in there with guys like Brandon Lee, and he's a stud in the boxing game. So I mean, you know, and Shady, like I said, was 1-1 coming off of a knockout, a pretty good knockout as well. So, I mean, you know, that was in the back of my mind, like, you know, what if he touches me on the chin? But then again, I stop all that mentally because that's why I meditate every single day. So there's nothing but pure thoughts coming through my mind. You know what I mean? So when I think of, oh, does Travis have too much experience? Is he too tough? Is he, nah. I'm not worried about what he's got going on. I'm worried about what Ryan's got going on. And how do I conquer that? How do I gain confidence? I put in so much fucking work that it hurts. You know what I mean? And I've been doing it ever since that little boxing bullshit that I had, you know, went out to just do it. You know, a lot of people looked at me like that, like, oh, well, you know, he didn't look good. Or, yeah, of course not. I took that shit on a 4-day notice. And everything that I don't do, I was doing. You know what I mean? I wasn't doing meditation. I wasn't running. I wasn't in the gym, you know, 5 days a week. I was in there like 3, just staying ready because I knew we weren't going to fight until June or July anyway. So, like, I stay active, but there's levels to it. You know what I mean? There's staying active, and then there's training to fight. And you can't train to fight like you're fighting year-round because you'll burn yourself out. So at least stay active. And then when it's your name gets called upon, you got a couple weeks to get ready. It's like, okay, now I'm going to, you know, all gas, no brakes. You know what I mean? And then you can go. But, I mean, in my opinion, you know, when Travis is almost 20 pounds over fucking weight, that tells me that he's not training up there. Because if he was, you're not coming down here at 5'6", 5'7", 20 pounds overweight. In my mind, that's crazy, and that's not a good idea. You know what I mean? You don't got water to your brain. Your chin could be, you know, easily touched, and it could rock you, man. You know, and it doesn't matter how tough you are, and also getting lacerated. That is not going to help you. And I'm a sharpshooter, man. I'm a sniper in this. And, you know, I've cut every one of my opponents, I think, except for Rick, but I broke his orbital. You know what I mean? And I realized I could have done that a lot sooner because it is, you know, something that you got to kind of adjust to and get used to in this bare knuckle game. Like, you know, it's not boxing. It's not boxing by any means. I mean, it's boxing in a sense, but you can't take the same shot. So if me and Travis are sparring and I jab him 15 times in a round, he ate all those jabs and is still coming forward. In bare knuckle, I hit him with those same 15 jabs. His eye socket's bleeding, his underneath his eyes bleeding, his nose is bleeding. You know what I mean? It's a lot different. I treat it like knife fighting, like Lorenzo Hunt said. You know, and that's what I look to. That's how I do it, and that's how I look to do it.
And it's kind of interesting because you talk about the, you know, anecdotal experience of cutting most of your opponents you faced. Is it also something you're seeing in some of Travis's previous fights, though, because he did lose to Jared Grant?
I have the scar tissue, and I'm going to touch him. And who's to say that 1-2 doesn't fly right down the pipe and break his orbital? Because I've already done it before. How many orbitals has he broke? How many faces has he broke? How many people has he actually truly knocked out? You know, he's going the distance with a lot of these guys. You know what I mean? And, you know, like I said, he's a dangerous opponent for sure, but like I'm saying, I know who I am, and I know the type of work I put in as well. And all the pressure is on him, you know, because I'm the new guy in the sport. I'm the less experienced guy in the sport. So I take his ass out. It's not a good look for him. And, you know, let's all not forget what happened to him and Jared Grant. And Jared Grant is a small guy, very talented, but a smaller opponent. And he boxed the shit out of him. And, I mean, Travis wasn't even recognizable. And Travis had the same thing, I'm sure. You know, Jared Grant only had 3 fights in it. So I'm sure Travis was, I'm way more experienced. He talked hellish shit on him. I'm going to knock you the fuck out and blah, 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 blah. So, I mean, talk is cheap. Show me. You know what I mean? I'm not worried about what you're saying, bro. I'm worried about me. And like I said, in order for me to have this confidence, I have to be putting in the massive amounts of work. You know, when I'm running side by side with the champion Dave Mundell, and I'm neck to neck with him the whole time in sprints, and I'm neck to neck with him the whole time on pads, and he's got a great pace, you know, for his fights. You know, it gives me confidence to be like, I'm ready.
And also, I'm curious to kind of get more into this because you touched on, the boxing effort and the 4 days notice. It seemed like you got to meet guys like Vitor Belfort and Jeremy Stevens and Anthony Pettis. But
that's why I did it. I knew what I was in for. And the thing about me, man, is I'm so fucking real with myself that I tried to lie to myself, like, you're ready, you got a puncher's chance. Nah, man, that's not the way this shit works, especially with me. Like I said, I wasn't running, I wasn't meditating, I wasn't in the right mental state. So when you get out there, and I knew this dude had 150 amateur fights, he was #2 Olympian in India, you know what I mean? It's like, fuck, and then he flies in off of Roy Jones Jr.'s private jet, and then it's like, it was just all a setup for me to lose, man, and I couldn't conquer it mentally, you know what I mean? To put yourself, but guess what? I showed up. And ask yourself this, and what people don't ask themselves is look at all the boxing greats. Do you think that any one of those boxing greats, Floyd Mayweather, Mike Tyson, any of them would have took their first fight against a fucking Olympian that was a silver medalist Olympian with 150 fights? Absolutely not. And that dude, from what I hear and what I research, fought at welterweight, 147 at one point in time. So how the fuck he's making 130 pounds? They got the recipe over there. But when you're training with high-level guys like Roy Jones, and they're telling you exactly what to do and how to do it, it makes it easier. But when you're winging that shit, like, oh, well, maybe if I do this, and maybe if I eat that, and maybe if I don't do this, you're experimenting. And sometimes those experiments aren't going to go your way. You know what I mean? You're like, oh, fuck, I probably shouldn't have done that because my legs aren't there. And I lost, I think, 12 pounds in 4 days. You know what I mean? So it kind of got to me, man. It kind of got to me. And unfortunately, I couldn't even pull the dog out of me, man, because of, what it was. And I tell people, even if I would have went out there and performed at a fucking high level and looked great, I would have fucked my mental up because I knew I wasn't doing anything. So then it would have been like, oh, well, maybe for the next one, I just don't really need to train as hard, and I don't really need to meditate, and I don't really need to run like that, and I don't really, bro. It proved to me that everything that I was doing previously was why I was winning, So I look forward to doing those same things and having that same sort of mental and, running the same kind of thing. And, like I said, we'll just have to see what happens.
Yeah, just kind of an interesting mindset because, like, the kind of vibe / impression I'm getting is that, I mean, as much as you're entering this as, like, an undefeated bare-knuckle boxer, it's like there's almost this chip on your shoulder, like, to assert to people, like, hey, listen, I came in on super short notice.
Because at the end of the day, if I got to go out, it's going to be on my shield, and people are going to point their fingers at me and be like, that's one tough motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? That's one dude we don't want to fight anyway. But I want to make this my fight. You know what I mean? I'm not going to stand there and bang toe-to-toe with him. I'm gonna outbox him. I'm a sharpshooter. So in order for him to move to me, gives me an opportunity to counter, and my counters are excellent. And I do it in the gym. I mean, even me and Dave Mundell got in rounds. And, of course, he's not trying to take my head off and letting me work, but he's like, oh, I see why you back up. Because when I was in the wrong gyms, I learned how to fight backing up. So a lot of people are like, that's a no-no. But I'm so locked in when I do it that as you're coming in on me, I punch you 2 or 3 times to the face as I'm backing up. And I know how to twist and put my hips in it. And we've been working angles and shit. So, I mean, I think he's going to be very surprised when we get in there and he realizes I'm not as small as he thought I was. I'm faster than he thought I was, and I'm fucking accurate. And, that's going to play a huge, huge, huge factor. And like I said, I've been putting in the mass amounts of work in, and I know that he's just starting now to put in those mass amounts of work. And, sometimes it's not enough, man. I mean, if you really took this shit serious, do you start training camp when there's only 3 weeks left? Or do you start training camp up where you're from, get your weight down to a manageable, size, and then not have to worry about that? I mean, that's how I would do it, but, they call him an animal for a reason, and we'll see. You know what I mean? Maybe there's something I don't know about, but I doubt it because I study and I read people very well. I mean, when it comes to my opponents, I want to know where you fucking work, what you do for a living, who you hang out with, because all of that plays a pivotal role in who you are. You are who you hang out with. And I mean, yeah, he's trying to use I got the gym with Keith Thurman and Winky Ray. First off, Winky Ray doesn't go to that gym ever. And second off, Keith Thurman's there once in a blue moon. as well, and if he is there for a training camp, nobody else is allowed in the gym. And I had all that privileges. And if I thought that was the spot to be, I would have never left. But obviously I wasn't getting what I needed. And I went to a different spot that they don't play games. Battle Zone don't play games. We are the best gym in Florida as far as conditioning goes. And if you don't think so, bring your ass to my gym and I'll give you a little bit of a workout, a little bit of taste of what we do. And anybody in this fucking world would be like, yeah, I much respect to you, brother. Much respect to you. And I know that. So, to me, it's all about the amount of work you're putting into this shit, man. And like I said, I'm no spring chicken. I've been doing this for 20 years. I've gotten opportunity to train with a dude that fought in UFC 7 as an alternate. He brought Hungar Gung Fu back to the countries. His name is Onassis Strassman. Everybody can look him up. He's a killer, man. And I got, 16 years old training with him for a couple of months. Then I started training with, I don't know if you ever heard of Brendan Ward. He fights in Bellator.
Oh, yeah.
I got to train with his dad in Connecticut and his camp and his people. And then I left them and I came down here and I was, we're at Winky's gym where Travis is at and, bounced around from there. And I've got to train with a lot of world-class guys, And, that's where the experience comes in. But like I said, this isn't boxing. A lot of boxers don't even want to do this because they know if you watch a boxing match and you watch a bare knuckle match, and Travis is really traditional boxing, keeps his left hand down, tries to shoulder roll. How the fuck are you going to shoulder roll a fist, man? You're not. And that's why Jared Grant lit his ass up. And when you're used to that style over and over and over again, you're not just going to change it. So you have to adjust it. Did he make those adjustments? You better hope so.
Yeah, and you've been great with your time, man. I guess just one of the last things I kind of wanted to touch on, because it seems that you've mentioned the scar tissue a few times, and you've never gone the distance in one of your bare-knuckle boxing bouts. Are we foreseeing a doctor stoppage in this one? Is that kind of the predominant idea?
That's what I'm going for. Doctor stoppage, knockout. Or knockout, I should say.
Well, I was definitely excited for this. Sorry, go ahead.
He's going to feel that power, man. And I got it. Trust in me, I got it. And if you don't believe me, ask Rick. You know what I mean? Like, it's there. And I look to enforce it. Travis is touchable. So when I touch him, how is he going to handle it is the question, So we'll see.
Well, I was definitely looking forward to this fight before talking to you, but you're definitely getting me more excited for it. There's a lot going into this one, and I appreciate all the time and insights, man. But curious if there's any final parting thought you'd want to add as we're kind of wrapping things up here, Brian.
I mean, look, man, just tune in. Just tune in and watch greatness unfold.
Yeah, and people can do so at BKFC 47, which goes down on July the 14th. And I very much think this Travis Thompson fight very much establishes the next title contender at bantamweight. So very curious to see how all that plays out. But again, to reiterate, thanks so much for the time, man, and you have a good rest of your day, Brian.
Hey, man, I appreciate your time as well.